The final enemy stronghold crumbled under Maya's methodical assault. She moved through their defensive positions like smoke, appearing behind cover where no one should have been able to approach undetected. Her rifle spoke once, twice, 3 times, and the last of their attackers fell silent forever. Maya emerged from the grass 30 meters from their position, her movements now revealing the controlled grace of someone who had done this countless times before. The nervous energy was gone, replaced by the calm confidence of a professional warrior who had just completed another successful mission. Thompson stared in absolute shock as Maya approached their position. Her uniform bore patches and insignia that had been carefully hidden beneath her outer gear. The rookie facade had been completely stripped away, revealing someone whose credentials far exceeded his own. Delta Force, Williams whispered in awe, recognizing the subdued unit patch now visible on Maya's sleeve. She's fucking Delta Force. Maya reached their position and knelt beside Jenkins, her hands moving with practiced medical precision as she assessed his wound. The transformation from bumbling rookie to elite operator was so complete it seemed impossible that they could be the same person. How many times have you made assumptions about someone based on first impressions, only to discover you were completely wrong? Sometimes the most extraordinary people are hiding in plain sight, waiting for the moment when their true abilities are needed most. She began treating Jenkins with the same professional competence she had demonstrated in combat, her training evident in every movement. The sound of helicopter rotors filled the air as extraction arrived precisely on schedule. Colonel Harrison stepped down from the lead aircraft, his eyes immediately scanning the grassland littered with enemy casualties. His gaze found Maya and stopped, recognition dawning across his weathered features. Staff Sergeant Chen, the colonel said, snapping to attention and rendering a crisp salute. I should have known Delta would have assets in the field. Maya returned the salute with the same professional bearing she had hidden so carefully that morning. Sir, mission parameters required deep cover integration with conventional forces. The threat assessment proved accurate. Thompson watched in stunned silence as his commanding officer showed the level of respect typically reserved for the most elite operators in the military. The rookie he had worried about all morning was someone who outranked him in ways that mattered far more than conventional hierarchy. Jenkins looked up from his field dressing, finally understanding why Maya's medical treatment had been so expertly administered. She had probably saved more lives in combat zones than most medics would see in their entire careers. Have you ever witnessed a moment when someone's true identity completely changed how everyone around them saw the world? Sometimes respect isn't just earned, it's revealed when the mask finally comes off. Williams shook his head in amazement, realizing that every perceived mistake that morning had been carefully calculated performance art designed to maintain her cover until the mission required her true capabilities. As the helicopters lifted off from the grassland, Maya carefully adjusted her gear back to its original awkward configuration. The elite operator patches disappeared beneath her outer vest, and she resumed the nervous fidgeting that had characterized her morning performance. The transformation back to rookie status was as complete as her earlier revelation. Thompson sat across from her in the helicopter, watching in fascination as she became the bumbling soldier once again. But now he understood that every stumble, every dropped piece of equipment, every moment of apparent incompetence had been a masterfully crafted performance designed to hide her true capabilities. Jenkins caught her eye and nodded with deep respect, understanding that his life had been saved by someone whose skills far exceeded anything he had imagined possible. The brotherhood forged in combat had taken on an entirely new dimension with the knowledge of who she really was. Maya winked at Martinez and returned to fumbling with her helmet strap, the act so convincing that anyone who hadn't witnessed her performance in the grassland would never suspect the deadly competence hidden beneath the surface. This story reminds us that extraordinary people walk among us every day, often hiding their greatest strengths until the moment when those abilities are desperately needed. Share this with someone who might need to remember that everyone has hidden depths worth respecting. The squad would never look at anyone the same way again, understanding that appearances could be deceiving and that the most unassuming person might be the most capable when it truly mattered. Marcus moved quietly through the boardroom, arranging water glasses and checking the audio-visual equipment while executives filtered in for their pre-meeting briefing. He had perfected the art of being present yet invisible, his years of maintenance work teaching him to blend into the background like wallpaper. Chen gathered her team around the conference table, her voice carrying the weight of responsibility. "The interpreter we hired comes highly recommended," she explained, "but this is their first major corporate merger." Blackstone waved dismissively, declaring that French businessmen always spoke English anyway, it was just a formality. Marcus paused in his dusting, recognizing the dangerous assumption. He had seen too many international negotiations fail because of cultural misunderstandings and linguistic nuances. French business culture valued precision in language almost as much as precision in contracts. A single mistranslated phrase could derail months of preparation. The interpreter arrived shortly after, a nervous young woman clutching her credentials and looking overwhelmed by the magnitude of the task ahead. Marcus watched her hands shake slightly as she tested the translation equipment, and he felt a familiar knot forming in his stomach. His academic instincts screamed warnings that no one would hear. Blackstone continued his dismissive commentary about foreign business practices, his voice growing louder as other executives nodded along. "Just smile and speak slowly," he advised, "they always understand more than they let on." Marcus kept his head down, but his jaw tightened with each ignorant comment. The French delegation arrived with the punctuality that marked serious business, their tailored suits and confident bearing filling the lobby with an air of European sophistication. Philippe Dubois led the group, his silver hair and weathered face speaking of decades spent building an empire from a small family business into a global powerhouse. Marcus watched from his position near the elevator bank as they were escorted upstairs. He caught fragments of their conversation in rapid French, discussing market projections and regulatory concerns with the fluency of native speakers who had no intention of slowing down for translators. The interpreter hurried past him, her face pale with anxiety. Marcus heard her muttering practice phrases under her breath, stumbling over pronunciation that would immediately mark her as inexperienced to anyone with a trained ear. His heart sank as he recognized the signs of someone in over their head. What would you do in Marcus's situation? Share your thoughts. We love hearing from our global community. In the boardroom, handshakes were exchanged with formal politeness. Dubois greeted Chen in accented but clear English, then switched seamlessly to French when addressing his own team. The interpreter scrambled to keep up, already missing subtle contextual cues that Marcus could hear even from his position arranging chairs along the far wall. The first mistranslation came within minutes. A complex financial term was simplified incorrectly, changing the meaning from partnership opportunity to potential liability. Marcus's hands stilled on the chair he was adjusting, his academic training recognizing the error that could cost millions. The meeting began in earnest, with PowerPoint presentations flickering across the massive screen and documents sliding across the polished table. Marcus continued his methodical cleaning, moving with practiced silence while chaos built around the translation booth. The interpreter's voice grew increasingly strained as she struggled with technical terminology. Marcus winced as she translated "merger synergies" as "business friendships," a mistake that caused visible confusion among the French delegation. Dubois raised an eyebrow but remained diplomatically silent, though his colleagues exchanged meaningful glances that spoke volumes about their growing concerns. Blackstone, oblivious to the linguistic disaster unfolding, pressed forward with aggressive timelines and profit projections. His impatience showed as he gestured emphatically, demanding faster translations and clearer answers from people who were receiving fundamentally flawed information. Chen tried to maintain diplomatic composure, but Marcus could see the tension building in her shoulders as the communication barriers grew higher with each passing minute. She asked the interpreter to repeat several key points, clearly sensing that something was wrong but unable to identify the source of the problem. Marcus found himself frozen by a window, watching the train wreck of miscommunication while knowing he possessed the expertise to fix it. His mop hung forgotten in his hands as another crucial phrase was mangled beyond recognition. The French team's body language shifted from interested to skeptical, their initial enthusiasm cooling with each mistranslation. The breaking point arrived when Blackstone mentioned exclusive distribution rights. The interpreter, sweat beading on her forehead, translated this as special stealing permissions, a phrase so absurd that even Marcus had to suppress a gasp from his position near the supply closet. Du Bois leaned forward, his expression darkening as he addressed his team in rapid French. Marcus understood every word of their heated discussion about American business ethics and whether this company could be trusted with such fundamental misunderstandings. The deal that had taken months to arrange was crumbling in real time. The tension is building. What part of this story resonates most with you? Chen called for a brief recess, clearly sensing the deteriorating atmosphere but unable to pinpoint the cause. As executives filed out for coffee, Marcus watched the interpreter frantically consulting her dictionary, tears of frustration gathering in her eyes. She knew she was failing but lacked the expertise to recover. Marcus approached the conference table to collect empty water glasses, positioning himself where he could overhear Du Bois speaking quietly with his financial advisor. They were discussing whether to terminate negotiations immediately or give the Americans one final chance to demonstrate competence. The words unprofessional and insulting came through clearly in their French assessment. His hands trembled slightly as he stacked the glasses. Sophia's face flashed in his mind, along with all the other employees whose jobs depended on this merger succeeding. The weight of knowledge pressed against his chest like a physical force, demanding action he wasn't sure he had the courage to take. When the meeting resumed, Marcus made his decision. He approached Chen's chair as she reviewed her notes, his heart hammering against his ribs. "Excuse me," he whispered, leaning close enough that only she could hear. The interpreter made an error. Exclusive distribution rights was translated as stealing permissions. Chen's eyes widened in shock, but years of executive training kept her expression neutral. She studied Marcus's face, searching for any sign of deception or confusion. "How do you know this?" she asked quietly. "I speak French," Marcus replied simply, the words feeling strange after years of silence. "Fluently." Before Chen could respond, Blackstone's voice boomed across the room, demanding to know why the maintenance man was bothering the CEO during crucial negotiations. His face reddened with indignation as he gestured dismissively toward Marcus. "We don't have time for whatever complaints the janitor has about his schedule." The room fell silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. Du Bois watched the exchange with curious eyes, clearly understanding more English than he had initially let on. Chen raised her hand to quiet Blackstone, her decision made in that instant. "Marcus," she said clearly, her voice carrying across the boardroom, "would you mind helping us with something?" The French delegation looked puzzled as this unexpected development unfolded. Marcus straightened his shoulders, feeling the weight of his former life settling back onto him like a familiar coat he had forgotten how to wear. Marcus turned toward the French delegation and spoke his first words in the language he had once taught with passion. "Monsieur Du Bois, permettez-moi de vous présenter mes excuses pour les erreurs de traduction que ont caused la confusion aujourd'hui." The room went dead silent. Every head turned toward Marcus as the elegant French flowed from his lips with the precision of a native speaker. Du Bois straightened in his chair, his eyebrows rising with genuine surprise and interest. Marcus continued, explaining the specific mistranslations that had occurred and offering to clarify any points that remained unclear. His pronunciation was flawless, his grammar impeccable, his cultural understanding evident in every carefully chosen phrase. The years of academic training poured forth like water from a broken dam. Du Bois responded immediately, his face lighting with relief and respect. "Finally, someone who understands not just our language but our business culture," he said in rapid French. Marcus nodded, engaging naturally in the sophisticated discourse of international commerce. The French team began speaking excitedly among themselves, their earlier skepticism replaced by renewed enthusiasm. They had assumed the Americans were either incompetent or deliberately misleading them, but now they understood the communication had simply been lost in translation. Blackstone's mouth hung open in stunned silence. The interpreter sat frozen, her face burning with embarrassment. Chen watched the transformation with growing amazement, seeing her maintenance worker reveal himself as someone completely different from the man she thought she knew. Du Bois leaned forward with keen interest, addressing Marcus directly in French. "Your linguistic expertise is remarkable," he said. "What is your background?" Marcus explained his former position as a university professor specializing in Romance languages, his voice gaining strength with each word. The transformation in the room was palpable. Chen immediately grasped the magnitude of what had just occurred, realizing she had been employing a world-class linguist as maintenance staff. She looked at Marcus with new eyes, seeing past the uniform to the brilliant mind beneath. Blackstone's face had gone pale, his earlier arrogance crumbling as he understood the depth of his ignorance. The man he had dismissed as invisible help possessed qualifications that surpassed most of the executives in the room. His condescending remarks echoed back to haunt him. "If this story is touching your heart, let us know where you're listening from around the world." Marcus seamlessly took over translation duties, his expertise transforming the entire dynamic of the negotiations. Complex financial terms were rendered with precision, cultural nuances were explained with academic thoroughness, and the mood shifted from suspicion to collaboration. Du Bois expressed genuine admiration for Marcus's fluency and cultural understanding. "In my 30 years of international business," he declared in English for everyone to understand, "I have rarely encountered such linguistic mastery. Your company is fortunate to have such talent." Chen nodded emphatically, her mind already racing with possibilities. Marcus felt the weight of recognition settling around him like sunlight after years of shadow, his hidden worth finally acknowledged by those who mattered. The merger negotiations resumed with Marcus facilitating every exchange, his expertise bridging not just language barriers but cultural expectations. Details that had seemed impossible to resolve suddenly became clear through his precise translations and cultural insights. Chen watched in amazement as Marcus explained French business protocol to her team while simultaneously helping Du Bois understand American corporate structure. His academic background shone through every interaction, revealing years of study and teaching that had been hidden beneath a maintenance uniform. "Marcus," Chen said during a brief pause, "I need to speak with you privately after this meeting." There was no mistaking the intent in her voice. She had recognized exceptional talent and intended to act on it immediately. The final contract terms were negotiated with unprecedented smoothness, both sides understanding exactly what was being proposed and agreed upon. Du Bois praised the clarity of communication, stating that this was the most efficient international negotiation he had experienced in decades. As signatures were applied to the merger documents, Blackstone approached Marcus with visible reluctance. His face burned with embarrassment as he extended his hand. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "And our company owes you a debt of gratitude." Marcus accepted the handshake with dignity, his response gracious despite the months of dismissive treatment. "We all have hidden depths," he replied simply. "Sometimes circumstances just prevent us from showing them." The French delegation prepared to leave, but Du Bois lingered to shake Marcus's hand personally. "I hope we will have many opportunities to work together in the future," he said with genuine warmth. 3 months later, Marcus sat in his new office on the executive floor, reviewing international contracts as the company's director of global communications. The nameplate on his desk still felt surreal, but Sophia's proud smile when she visited made every moment of uncertainty worthwhile. Chen had moved quickly after the merger meeting, creating a position that utilized Marcus's linguistic expertise and cultural knowledge. His salary had increased tenfold, allowing him to move Sophia to a better school district and finally breathe without the constant weight of financial stress. The transformation had rippled throughout the company. Marcus established a mentorship program for employees seeking career advancement, understanding firsthand how talent could be overlooked simply because of circumstances. He also created language training initiatives that improved international business relationships across all departments. Sophia burst through his office door after school, her backpack bouncing as she ran to hug him. "Daddy," she said with 80-year-old wisdom, "I always knew you were special. I just didn't know everyone else would figure it out too." Marcus held her close, remembering the morning months ago when he had cleaned these same floors as an invisible maintenance worker. Life had a way of revealing hidden gifts when they were most needed. Thank you for joining us on Marcus's journey. Subscribe for more inspiring stories and let us know what time zone you're in. We love our global family. Through his window, Marcus could see the city skyline where dreams were built and rebuilt every day, where second chances waited for those brave enough to seize them.